Hear the story of my life, heartaches and pain, weeping at night and laughing at dawn.
Sharing my joy, victories and hope. A brighter day has come. It's for you and for me.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Kayanja show. We bring you real life stories of people who have weathered the storms of lives and would want to share their trials and triumphs with us. And today's topic, grieving, losing a loved one, the trauma of death. As we all know, death is the only means by which we can transition into the afterlife. But even as Christians, we still tremble when we hear of someone who is deceased. Even as Christians, we break when we lose a loved one. Is there life after loss? Today, we have a wonderful young gentleman who is here to take us through the story of losing the love of his life. I want to welcome you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for hosting me today.
We are honored to have you on this program, and thank you for allowing to share your story with us. I know that this is not going to be very easy, but thank you. You'll be helping so many people.
Thank you.
Can you please tell us your names?
Once again, thank you so much for hosting me. It's a privilege and honor to be on this wonderful show. My name is Paul Mwebe Timothy, and I'm a humanitarian worker. I work for refugees in a project that works in 3 countries. I'm the deputy director, but I'm also a member of the Miracle Center Cathedral for the last 10 years.
Wow, that's wonderful. Tell me a little bit about how you met your sweetheart and what drew you to her.
Yeah, thank you so much. And again, it's an honor to share the story with a lot of viewers that are watching us. When I left university, that is in 2000, I joined an organization in Masaka, and that is Compassion Projects, which looks after children, vulnerable children. And by that time, you are beginning life. So I just left the university, very young. And so part of what you prepare for is starting to make some money, but also family is one of those that you look forward to. So along the way, and that is, I think, after working with the Lord for many years, one of the things you pray for is a spouse. And so when I went to Masaka, that is in a place called Mbirizi, a few kilometers from Masaka, we were a number of us working in the project. And so there were several, God-fearing women or girls. And there was one particular one that caught my attention. And she was our mama in that fellowship, because we used to have fellowships within the workers.
Okay, she was the mama in the fellowship. Mama. She led the fellowship.
Yes, she led the fellowship, and then she was also very active as an usher in a church which was near in Birizi, Full Gospel Church, and so very welcoming. I remember when my parents actually escorted me to that place when I went to work, and so she's one of those people that welcomed me. And made me feel comfortable, exactly. And so that was for me very important. And so along the coming years and months, we drew closer in being friends and going to the same church, serving the same population. And so that's the way we first met, and as workmates.
And the relationship progressed to marriage.
The relationship progressed to marriage.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
You get married, and then what happens within the marriage?
So when we got married, and the excitement and the buzz of being having found a wonderful woman, and we both of us are young, and so one of the things that you look forward is to have children.
Yes.
And so in the first year of our marriage, of course, we started wanting to have children.
Yes.
And along that first year, we discovered that she had some issues, feminine issues around, issues that affect women. And so initially we thought it was something that would be treated, and, she goes through it, and so it wouldn't continue affecting our ability to have children.
Okay.
And then 1 year elapsed, and so there wasn't any children coming through. Then the second year, there wasn't children coming through. And then along the third year, we started also to notice there was something which wasn't very normal. And so we started consulting doctors.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And was, all that time, you were actually believing God that you would have children?
Absolutely.
Because you thought this was something small, something hormonal, So you go to the doctors after, an occurrence, a painful occurrence. You go to the doctors, and what is the doctor's diagnosis?
So initially we met some doctors in Masaka, and I think these were mostly junior doctors who I think failed to diagnose in the first place what the problem was. And so they could talk about hormonal imbalances as one of the reasons why we cannot, have children. But in the fourth year, as her health began to deteriorate, we decided to go and visit a physician. And the physicians, he told us two things. One was, yes, you can continue treating the hormonal imbalance, but there is a suspicion that there could be a cancer. So that was the first time there was someone was alluding to a cancer, which we couldn't, one, believe, then two, as young as we were, and with the faith that we had, and we that's the least thing that you expect to be happening in a young marriage. And so we had to move to Kampala to do the test. So along the way, there began to be some signs of which were a little bit serious in terms of her blood makeup, and so which was pointing to a real serious problem. And that was our fourth year of marriage. Yeah.
So when do you first get the certainty of a cancer diagnosis? Because there is suspicions of cancer, which most women get, and then there is certainty that for sure we've done the blood work, we've done the CT scan, and this is cancer.
So when we came to Kampala and we visited a doctor that was, there used to be an AR clinic at now the East African Development Bank, and so we entered, and the doctor was a physician as well. I think that's when we start now looking at professional doctors, because initially the ones that we had visited never gave us a conclusive answer. So we visit and they take some tests, and he comes back and tells us, I think the signs and the story you've given us, this is cervical cancer.
Wow. Can you just take us through what you felt at that moment?
When you're young and you don't expect things to happen to you,
Yes.
and when you have walked a journey where you've believed God that some things will be very far away from you, it hit us very hard. For me as a person, I think we failed actually to walk out of that place, because one of the things that comes to your mind is now you're beginning to struggle with what happens. What happens?
What do we do next?
What do we do next? And with all the stories of cancer, how the process, the healing process happens, but also the death part of it, because you have a life ahead of you, and then suddenly you have this news.
I know. And if for anybody who has not gone through that, or had anybody close to them that has suffered from cancer, the word cancer itself to some people denotes, a kind of end to the tunnel or end to the road. So I can imagine how, you know, you felt just being in that place, and you said you couldn't walk out.
We couldn't walk out because that's the least thing you expect.
I know.
That's the least thing you expect. You know, you're battling childlessness
Yes.
for 4 years.
Yes.
And then suddenly, then something, boom, comes. You know, now you're facing death.
Yes.
Death of your spouse, death of
Yes.
your friend. And so that begins to bring a lot of questions to your heart.
Yeah, I know.
But also physically, you feel you cannot contain it. Psychologically, then also the support system. You're wondering, I mean, where is the money going to come from?
Yes.
Because of course with insurance they don't cover those kind of
Yes.
illness, terminal illness. And so that was lingering in our mind, and so it weakened us. But in the midst of that, it was amazing that she actually never showed any signs of letting go, of, you know, shocked. It was me actually who was going through the motions.
She was a strong, resilient person. Is that one of the qualities that you admired?
Yes, and I think that is one of the stronger one, because she never, you know, exhibited any you know, signs of discouragement. And I remember when we were meeting, one of the things that drew closer to her was her love for the Lord. She was very strong. She was always a positive person. She was always smiling, and so it was difficult to bring any bad news to her. And so that was one of the qualities. And again, she was a very good listener. She was a very good listener. She could take in.
She could listen to you talk.
She could listen to me talk. She could take, you know, the plans and the aspirations that you bring into a relationship. So that, I think those two.
And listening in a woman, I think, is every man's dream.
Absolutely.
Every man wants to marry a good listener.
Absolutely.
So you are describing the picture of a perfect woman, resilient. You're giving us a picture of a perfect woman, resilient, patient, a good listener. What other qualities did she have?
She was very empathetic, because one of the things that I think was very key in the projects that we worked in, because they were projects of children who are vulnerable, and her mark in that project was incredible. I mean, the love that she got from the parents of the children, from the children themselves, but also in the home itself. For those 4 years, we never had any issues.
You never had any quarrels?
We never had any quarrels.
Any problems?
I remember that even on the funeral day, when they asked me to talk about her, that is one of the things that I said, that for the 4 years, I don't have any regrets. I mean, we lived a life of 4 years. So that is something that was very key in...
She was not a woman one could easily find.
Absolutely.
Not at all.
Absolutely.
You know, a woman you can have by your side for 4 years, and you don't quarrel. She's empathetic. She's embracing of you and who you are. She's a very good listener, and she's resilient. She did not show you that she was in so much pain or that she was hurting. Now, what stage of cancer was she diagnosed?
Stage 4.
She was diagnosed with stage 4.
It was stage 4. I didn't even understand what stage 4 was.
Meant. Yes.
I remember the test where we took a second test, and it was taken in at Wandegia. There's a lab there at that time, and that was, I think, 2008. And so when they broke the news that this is stage 4, the doctor sat us down and explained what stage 4 meant.
Oh, he explained stage 4 in front of her? In
front of her and in front of myself. What does it mean? And I was imagining what she was thinking, and I kept checking with her, but her faith was not wavering.
What did she say when the doctor told you what stage 4 meant?
She said, "We will believe God."
That's what she told the doctor?
Yeah, we will keep believing God.
And you were quiet, seated by her side, quiet?
A lot was going into my mind. You know, you are 29, and, you know, life is just beginning. And so suddenly you see this is happening to you. And so you can't even begin to imagine what will happen.
Yes.
The treatment bit of it, what stage 4 means, how long will it take? So it was very traumatic for me.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
So you go back home that day. What did you talk about? Was she able to talk? Were you able to talk? Did you just decide to ignore what the doctor said? And
one of the things that we actually emphasized and maintained in that process was the prayer. We kept praying, and
I know within you there was faith.
There was faith that this is going to change.
Because this is a loved one, she must live.
She must live. We must have all our dreams accomplished.
And I'm sure for this time you had forgotten about the childlessness now. It was fighting for her life that was important.
Children were no longer now an issue.
Children were no longer an issue.
Yeah, it was about her life and surviving and getting out of that. Because after about 2 weeks, she was admitted. And so when she was admitted, her mom came around because she was losing her blood. She was losing a lot of blood. And so, and in that process, we are wondering what's going to happen, because the doctor wasn't telling us, are you going for chemotherapy? Are you going
Why was that happening though? Because usually, even if it's stage 4, some a way forward is given. A way forward of some sort. Yes. So you were not given, you were not given a way forward. Was it just?
Her condition was deteriorating, I think, very fast.
Her condition was deteriorating very fast.
Yes.
And were you given painkillers? Were you given any form of sedative?
Yes, there was that happening. I think that was happening with the nurses and doctors, because me, emotionally and physically, I was really worn out.
You were not there emotionally.
And so I wasn't there, and so we were looking. And then the other issues that could happen that time in terms of advice was they were asking us to go for herbal medicine.
Okay, so the cancer had spread so bad that there was no longer a chance of chemotherapy, and or actually with cervical cancer it should be a hysterectomy or something like that. I'm sure now the cancer had metastasized to other areas.
Absolutely. That's what the doctor said. I think that complicates the thing, because the diagnosis of that took longer, and by the time we discovered, it had actually spread. But the other part about advice is you listen to a lot of people, because I remember that time we were told you can try herbal medicine, and so we had to move to Mukono. There was a herbal shop there, and we moved her there because we were trying to save her life. We had actually to move her from the hospital to go there, because the doctor wasn't giving us the right direction, what happens next. And I remember very well, that was 2008 during the Kabaka riots. It actually found us in Mukono. And so we spent there a week. But
you were living in Mukono and she was taking this herbal.
She was taking the herbal.
It still beats me though, because I feel that they could have been, even at a point where they say this has metastasized, there is, I know someone whose bleeding was stopped, even though she has been diagnosed with something. So it still beats me that, she was bleeding that much and you had to resort to herbal. So you were there, she's weakening. What was going through?
I think one thing that we're looking at was when you are going through this very difficult time as a young person, one of the things that you try is to try out different ways.
Yes, I understand.
And so we tried out that.
And you are listening, of course, you're listening to so many people.
Absolutely.
Do this, do that, do the other.
Yeah.
But at the back of your mind, there's still that faith that my wife will pull through, because we're people of prayer,
Absolutely. And that time, you do all kinds of prayer. You pray on your belly, you pray while on your knees, you pray while walking, you walk prayer, you walk scripture, you begin to think, is there any crusade that is happening anywhere where you can take your loved one? But I think those were very difficult times of 2008, 2009, 2007, 2008, 2009.
Yes, I know.
And so
there was hardly
any revival that was happening that time. And so I thought about it, because I remember when we were driving back at one point, I almost thought maybe let's go to Pastor Sorada's church. I think there was still some lunch hour fellowship that were happening. So you're exercising your faith.
You wanted to use the every possibility to tap into the presence of God.
Absolutely.
Because now your faith, so that this must have drawn you closer to God.
It did. And I think that is the point in my time when I think my closeness to God was really, really strong, because you do not see any other help. Because the doctors are not giving you the right direction.
Yes.
Then giving you advice for herbal medicine is also not working out. And then you don't have anywhere to turn to. So you only turning to God. And my faith was really, strengthened. My prayer life was different. And so as you said, that's an opportunity to draw closer to God. But also as you draw closer to God, there are also questions that are coming.
I know, and we are going to get to that part where you are actually questioning God. What about your wife, your late wife? What was she doing at that time? When you're struggling for her, what was her attitude towards life? What was her attitude towards God? You're struggling for her life. She's growing weaker. You have both lived a life of serving Him. What did she communicate to you in those times?
One of the things that I remember very well vividly was she never moved away from the Bible. Wow. Actually, up to the time when she went into a coma.
Wow.
She was always reading the Bible. Wow. She was always positive. Wow. She was always telling we will go through this. Wow. We will be okay.
Wow.
And I never saw tears in her eyes. I never saw her discouraged. I never saw her, throwing tantrums. But she was always very calm.
She was a woman of substance.
She was a woman of substance, yeah.
Wow.
And at some point, I think she became an encourager to me, because I was the one running up and down, trying to find help. And because of her condition and the way she, encouraging people, I mean, including, sharing the gospel with people who could come, to her bed.
To visit her. She will actually preach to them.
She will share with them.
She had
Christ.
A very strong foundation in the Lord.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. Now, all this is happening. You're fighting for your wife's life. You're praying at the same time and believing that God will touch her and God will heal her. What was, the position of the church at that, where you were?
And one of the things that, that is interesting about church is I think church normally doesn't know or didn't know how to handle, those people that are going through.
They don't know how to handle a crisis.
They don't know how to handle it.
God have mercy on us, yes.
Because that is the time you expect people to be closer to you,
yes,
particularly
yes.
those that you spend more time in church with. That did not happen. And then the other part that was really difficult was, you begin to hear people say, oh, it's a curse to lose a wife, because people compare cancer to like a death sentence. So I remember one person says that it's a curse to lose a wife at that age, at 30, because the time I was 29 making 30.
Because the church, we as the church have failed to fathom or understand the fact that we have to die to transition. Yes. And it's never written when we will depart. And that is why you hear people who you think are very strong and well-founded in faith, even men of God standing up after someone has died and said, I knew it. That person hasn't, was not maybe spiritual enough. And I'm shocked that you went through that, Yeah,
you don't expect that from church,
yes,
because you expect them to stand with you. And I think that statement was very
it was heart-wrenching, heartbreaking for someone to say it's a curse.
Absolutely.
That someone should lose out. And your wife was even not yet dead and they were already pronouncing sentence.
Yes.
So believing that because something bad is happening to your family, then you are cursed or something, or you've probably done something wrong.
Absolutely.
That's very heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
It's for you and for me.
Hello everyone, my name is Jessica Kayanja and this is a viewership alert. I want to appreciate you for tuning into my YouTube channel. But again, I would like to warn you to watch out for an impersonator. There is someone online posing as me and soliciting money. This person has a Nigerian number. Because he's an impositor, his number might change anytime. It could be a Ugandan number, a UK number. That is definitely not me. I do not raise money. I do not raise money on Facebook. I do not raise money on YouTube. I do not solicit funds in the name of interpreting dreams or seeing people in dreams. That is a fraud. And if this person inboxes you and he has my picture and my name, raise an alarm, tell them off, and don't heed to their treachery. Thank you for watching.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying this program so far. Please like, comment, and subscribe to Pastor Jessica's YouTube channel. Oh, and don't forget to press the notification button so that you're notified whenever we upload a video. Also, you can follow Pastor Jessica on all of her social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under the handle of Pastor Jessica Kayanja. If you would like to contact Pastor Jessica Kayanja, please do so on 077-263-1603. And if you'd like to advertise with us, please don't hesitate to let us know. Okay, now let's get back to the show.
For you and for me.
Who were your strong points in this, Who were the people you fell back to? Did your wife's mother come in to...
Yes, she came in later when we were admitted.
To take care of her, yes.
Take care of her. But I think along the way, my parents, Mr. and Mrs. Mafumu, Paul and Esther Mafumu.
So who was, before your mom moved in, when she was still at home and going through all this bleeding, and who was it? It was you?
It was me.
Wow.
It was me. Because
so you nursed her?
Yes, because I remember that time we were taking care of two, teenage girls who were supporting because of her empathetic life. We took on children. One of them became a foster child at 4 years, and then we had other two, and so they could help with the cooking. But now the aspects of the real taking care of it was
taking care. So you got to a point where you were carrying her,
absolutely,
bathing her, and going through all that. What did watching her depreciate do to you?
I was going through a very difficult time, which is, it's difficult to explain, but I could say as a young person, you don't know where you derive your strength from. And you normally say, I think that was the grace of God. Yes. Because you don't know how the grace of God, sustains you. It's after you go through it, then you begin to reflect.
How did I do this?
How did I even do this? I've never taken care of someone who is, who's sick, who's terminally ill and going through, difficult times, emotional and physically. So I think after going through it, that's when I realized that that's the definition of the grace of God. Wow. Where you go through something, afterwards you don't know, how did I even do this? How did I do this? How did I achieve this? Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, your parents, my parents were very helpful. But again, being there were some few friends that you could call to. Of course, they were not there physically, but I could say that it was the two of us. It was the two of us who went through this. You and your late wife. Yeah. So we are coming now to the time of her demise. What was the sign? Did you have any sign that she was going? When she was admitted in one of the major hospitals here, and then one of those days we were traveling, because I used to drive to pick food from my parents' home and then bring it for lunch. And so that after dropping food, I went to check on something. Then I came back in the evening, and we had spoken during the day. And of course it was, encouraging each other. And you had dropped food for her to eat? Yes. So she was still eating? She was still eating, and the mom was there as well, taking care of her. And then I think around 6 or 7, she went into a coma. Wow. And that is when... so you come back to hospital and she's in a coma? She's in a coma. And so I enter here and they say she's in a coma. And you know, I've never experienced someone who had been in a coma before.
Yes, yes.
I didn't know what it means to be in a coma, but I remember that time I looked up and told God, just take her through this. Just take her through this. And
Take her through it, meaning let her recover from this.
let her recover,
from
you
this
know,
coma.
sustain us, you know, and then reminding God, you know, I've walked with you. It's time to show up for me in this time. And so then I started crying, you know, uncontrollably. And the doctor said, you know, he needs to go away from here because we can't continue, you know, trying to resuscitate someone without with this
With him wailing and crying.
wailing here.
Yeah.
And so I remember that time there's a pastor friend of mine who came in, you know, to support during that moment to do the errands. He said, you know, let me drive. You cannot drive. So he tried to drive and he didn't know how to drive. So he almost got an accident.
Why was he offering to drive when he couldn't
Because
drive?
he saw me sobbing and, you know, in a very difficult
he wanted
time.
he was offering to be of help the best way he could.
Absolutely, and very good intentions, but we almost got an accident.
Wow.
We almost veered off the road. And I told him, you know, let me drive. I think I'll be able to drive. So I drove in that condition, you know, going through, you know, sobbing and crying and, you know, calling upon the name of the Lord and up to Wakiso where my parents used to stay. And so we were there, you know, we kept seeking
And even
God.
in that time, you were probably thinking, God, because I've served you, you're going to come, you know, you will come through for me.
Up to that last moment,
to the last
we
minute.
were still believing God. We were still trusting God that He will come through.
So how do you receive the news of her demise?
So at night I was sleeping, and I think the news spread so fast, and then I get a text message. You know, someone, you know, sending a condolence message, and you know that again also
Someone sending you a condolence
message. Yes,
They knew about
they
her
knew
demise
it
before you.
Before I knew
Oh
it.
no, that's so sad.
Yeah, and so that's when I now call the hospital, and I get to know that, you know, she has passed on.
Oh dear, that's very sad.
Yeah. And so that was I think one of
At
those.
what time?
I was around 5 in the morning. I didn't even ask what time did she pass on, how did she pass on. But one thing I remember that time was it was difficult for me to dress up. I remember my mom coming up and, you know, say, you need to dress up, you need to go and, you know, take a shower. And because all of us were affected, you know, you have your son, your firstborn son, you know, losing a wife at that at 29.
Wow.
And so they helped me to the bathroom, you know, to shower, to prepare me, and, you know, they begin to talk me through what happens when you've lost a wife. And so they were very helpful that time. Because I think it was difficult for me to sustain both emotional and also physically. Yeah.
Wow. That is so. You take a shower and then you head to hospital.
So after taking a shower, they drive me to the hospital, and
Were you given a chance to take a last look at her?
yes, I went and looked at her. And
Was she still in the hospital room?
they were preparing her. So I don't remember exactly where she was, but they were preparing her. And by that time, you know, you're thinking, what is going to happen to me?
Yes, I know.
What's going to happen to me? You know, you are wondering, where do I even start from after the demise? And because she's part of your support system.
I know. You left alone.
You're alone.
There are people in
ideally.
the church that have been saying you're cursed, you have a problem, and this is the person you've been sharing with, and all of a sudden she's gone.
She's gone.
And that's now when the real grieving starts.
It started, and I think I lost interest in every hobby. You know, every hobby that you knew, you loved, you lose interest in it. And you find yourself, you can't eat. You begin to lose weight because you are wondering what is going to happen. And so after we had, I think it was the next day that we had to send her off. And yeah, I had to, come and start staying with my parents. Because right now I had to move from Masaka and then, stay with my parents. And so the grieving starts. The grieving starts, and you are not even very sure whether you will be able to go back and work because now the reason why you're working is gone.
Did you go through, and what were your attitudes towards faith now? Because you had all the faith.
And one thing that happened, I think that first week was you have a lot of questions. You have a lot of questions. And as a young man, you really question how this happened. I mean, what did you do right? And so you are there and you're wondering, how do you now approach your maker, your God? What do you even tell him?
What are you going to pray about again?
What are you going to pray about again? So that's I think those are the questions that keep coming in. It took me a week before I returned to church. That time I was fellowshipping at now the Watoto Church. And God is amazing, because that Sunday that we went with my mom to church, there's a song that was sung by Philip, Craig and Dean. There's a song they sing. And I think it was very timely.
What song was this?
There's a song they say when you go through, I keep forgetting the song, but it talks about even when things are good and bad, He's still God. Even when things are good and bad, He's still God. And so that, I think, was a timely song. And I was listening to it before. By that time, it came in very handy.
And you began to.
And I began really. I think that was one song that ministered to me mostly, to begin to realize that I think this God
is still there, and
God is still there.
And I can get my life back even after this, and my faith back.
Absolutely.
So you go through the mourning period, the grieving period. We never know how long the grieving period is. I lost my mother when I was a child, my biological mother, and I was at my first year campus, and there are times I still grieve her even up to now. So, and people never understand that you can never put a full stop to the grieving period. We can smile at the people outside, we can laugh, but there is always the element of I miss her. And how was, did you ever get to a point where you said, the grieving period is over, or?
Yeah, I think that was a difficult one, because it is, your support system has been broken as a young person. Because I keep saying a young person because
you were very young. You were at 29. You were just 3 years older than my son right now. I would still feel that was very young.
Yes, absolutely. And then you are in a place where you don't know how to navigate. No one is coming to help you to know that this is the way to go. Because I remember, I mean, because even my parents didn't know what to tell me. Because yes, you've gone through this after a couple of months. Then what happens next? Because I'd returned back to work, and I wasn't staying in the house that we were staying in, so I was staying with my parents. And so then you begin to realize that I think the person is gone.
Yes, she's not coming back.
She's not coming back.
Yes, and I am still young.
And I'm still young.
Yes.
And so the questions begin to come. When do you start to date again?
Yes.
Do you give it a year or two?
Yes. How long?
How long?
And how was that a problem to you?
I think for me, one, it was a problem because it was because you are used to a life,
yes,
and then you no longer have that life.
Yes. You've been married before.
Yes.
And now you are single. So that's very hard. You need somebody in your life.
Absolutely. So that was the difficult part of it. How do you navigate being a single person again? But also, I think the other complicated one was the fact that you begin to have suitors.
Okay.
Like those that
People
come.
don't know about grief. They are waiting to be
Yes, and so either they come with a dream or they show intentions because they know you have been a family person before.
Okay, all right.
And so then how do you manage it? I remember that time I went and spoke to one of the pastors and said, this is what is going on. So how do I
have so many people that are eyeing me now that
Yes.
I'm a widower.
Yeah.
Okay, I just learned recently that widowers are really more on market than single men, because women feel that this is somebody who has gone through the drill.
Absolutely.
I don't have to make a husband. It's a ready-made husband.
Absolutely.
So I just, somebody just told me about it recently.
Yes.
And I was thinking, that's interesting.
And then you don't know how to manage that as well.
Yes,
because you're wondering, you need to come to a place where you make a decision and say, now I want to start, to reopen my heart.
So when did you do that? At what point did you reopen your heart? And what were your fears?
So that was after like 9 months.
After 9 months?
About 9 months. That's when I started thinking about, dating again. And I remember what I did was I went to my parents and talked to them on that, I think I'm ready. And they said, yeah, there's no problem. Then I also spoke to then my mother-in-law then, or my late wife.
You talked to your mother-in-law?
Yes, I talked to her, and then I think she said, yeah, I think that's not a problem. Because those are the fears that you have, people begin to think, are you moving so fast?
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
I know after 1 year, but yours were 9 months.
About 9
even
months.
After 1 year, there will be someone saying, this is too soon, for what he's going through.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of the things that actually happened, that there are some people who were afraid to come to talk to me then, when I'd lost my wife. And then now you're talking about remarrying. So like it's two things that a lot of people cannot relate with. And so after those 9 months, when I spoke to a couple of people, and my pastor, then I spoke to my parents. They said, yeah, I think it's okay. It's okay to move on. And deep in my heart, I think I started realizing that it's time to move on. It's time to move on. And so I took a step, and then I started looking around and prayerfully looking around, and trusting God that He will show me the right person that would because the other fears, as you asked, was you're fearing to get someone who could be worse than the one you had. So that's one of the fears. More sick, or someone who has a lot of issues. So that, I think that was a bigger fear.
Through, hell.
Yeah.
And you're afraid, if I go through this again.
Do I?
But I think apart from being sick, she had also set a precedent, a good precedent.
Mm-hmm.
The precedent had been set. For example, if I was to pass away now, I believe that my husband would still find a hard time finding a wife, because the precedent has been set. It's no longer just about the looks, it's about what someone has done, what they have instilled with you, what you have achieved when you have stood with that person. And I think for you, but you eventually met the woman of your dreams.
Yeah, absolutely, ma'am. And when the precedent has been set, I think it's important that that process, as I go through it, to look for someone who will help you to live life again. And this is what I wanted, and I wanted a spouse. When I started thinking about remarrying, I wanted a spouse that would have qualities that I saw in that would help me to fulfill life. The same qualities. And so, and that's the challenge, to be able to get that. And one thing I think I forgot to mention was when I went to church after that 1 week, actually my wife now was in church that day. And I remember she says that, I saw you with your mom, and I didn't want actually to come close to you because I knew you were still grieving. And so there were kind of things that God was beginning to put together. Which
she showed the empathy that you had seen in your first wife.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and so I decided to start dating again. And of course, there were still some people who were not sure whether that was the right decision to make.
Especially because it was just 1 year,
yeah,
or 9 months.
9 months.
Yes,
and
but you went ahead.
I went ahead.
You married this beautiful woman.
Absolutely.
Okay, so do you have any children now?
Yes, I have children. I have 4 beautiful children. That is 3 girls and then a son. And the son is more of it's a miracle because after having 3 girls,
You begin to wonder.
you begin to wonder. Your faith is again tested. But I think as I remember in 2017 when we were celebrating 7 years in marriage. We've been married. I've been married to Ruth Mwebe for 10 years now.
Wow.
And so Pastor speaks into our lives.
And he said you have a son.
You have a son. That was 2017.
That's powerful.
After
Pastor Kayanja.
Pastor Robert Kayanja.
Wow, that's powerful.
And at that time we were giving in our annual seed, and so he looked at us and said, "Oh, you have 3 beautiful daughters." And before we even told him that we want a son,
he said, "A son is coming."
A son is coming.
Yes, I think I remember that particular day. Now, what I want to say is, does your present family know? Do your children know that you had a marriage before and that you lost a wife?
Yeah, I have very interesting, inquisitive girls. And my 9-year-old is, my mom says she's like me when I was young because she asks a lot of 110 questions. So when she got to know about it, she asked my wife Ruth many questions. And
how did she get to know about it?
It was running in a story was run in one.
There was a write-up.
A write-up.
Oh, okay.
And then she
said, "This is my dad," and then I said, "Okay."
and then she began to ask all the questions. Who was she? You know. But I think one thing I thank God is Sunday school has given a very good foundation to my children. So
we thank God for your wife as well.
Yes.
Even for you to be able to come onto this show and celebrate your wife's memory. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 7 says, the memory of the righteous is beautiful, but the name of the wicked will rot. And there are spouses who don't even want the names of their husband's exes to be mentioned, or you understand, or there are girls who have broken into homes and they don't want the husband to even talk well about his present wife. But when you have a wife who allows you to commemorate this woman who you did not even have a biological child with, and she knew you were coming to this show, we must appreciate her.
Absolutely.
We must appreciate her because the memory of the righteous will always be celebrated.
Absolutely.
And talking about that, this what we are doing is nothing to be superstitious about. Proverbs 10 verse 7 makes it very clear. The memory of the righteous is beautiful. When we remember righteous people, it's a beautiful thing. And that's why most people in the Bible, we still read about them, we still learn from them. These are our own teachers, the people that have gone before us. And if a woman who managed to impact you this much, to the point that you are still writing about her and you are still celebrating her, I want to thank you so much for that. I want to honor you for coming today. I want to honor your wife Ruth. I want to appreciate her, and we bless God that God actually answered your prayer.
Absolutely.
Regarding childlessness.
Absolutely.
Although you did not know how he was going to do it. We thank God for that beautiful memory that you have, a woman who left, and the fact that you had no regret, you gave her your all. And Mr. Mwebe, what are your last words to the families that are grieving, to spouses like you that have lost their loved ones, to men like you that have lost their childhood sweethearts, to people that have seen their loved ones perish from, and depreciate? What would you like to tell them, and how would you encourage them?
Thank you very much, and thank you so much, Pastor Jessica, for that. And I'm still cognizant that the situations are different, but then there are some things that are key and that were very, there were pillars during the time when I was grieving, when I was going through that difficult time, and also, being able to remarry again. One is don't lose faith. It's very difficult that time to question your faith, to question your God. But I think even as Job went through those difficult times, one of the things that he kept, even when he was being, pushed to either deny God, he never denied God. Do not deny God. It's a difficult time, but keep your faith. And then secondly, if you're going through such a time, it's important to surround yourself with the right people. Surround yourself with the right people. Your family, not everyone is the right person, but people that would come and encourage you, and people that will say the right things. I think that's also very important. And then thirdly, to have hope, knowing that your loved one has gone to a place that you also look forward to go to one day. And so that's, I think, very important. And that's, I think, the three things that I can say that
That's
were very,
powerful.
very key during that process, and particularly as a young person. I think those are pillars that were very much strong in me, that helped me to, to survive and also recover and be what I am today.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
We want to thank you for coming to share this story.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for hosting me as well.
We hope you can be back one day with your beautiful wife.
Absolutely.
We want to hear her side of the story, her fears, her challenges, about marrying, a widower. Thank you so much, Mr. Mwebe, for coming to this
Thank
show.
you, Pastor Jessica, and it's an honor to be hosted in this place.
And God bless.
Thank you.
When we kneel down to pray, we who have faith always expect an answer. And God always answers our prayers. The Bible says his hand is not too short that he cannot save. His ear is not deaf that he cannot hear. Mr. Mwebe cried out to God to give him children. And God answered his prayer. He had no idea how he would answer that prayer. But right now, he has children. He cried out to God to heal his wife. And transitioning into the spiritual realm, going to heaven, is a type of healing. Because right now she's in a place where she will never feel pain again. And we praise God for that. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.
Amen.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this program. Please like, comment, and subscribe to Pastor Jessica's YouTube channel. Oh, and don't forget to press the notification button so that you're notified whenever we upload a video. Also, you can follow Pastor Jessica on all of her social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, under the handle of Pastor Jessica Kayanja. If you would like to contact Pastor Jessica Kayanja, please do so on 077-263-1603. And if you'd like to advertise with us, please don't hesitate to let us know.
That's all we could do for today. I do wish we had more time. But remember, it's a weekly program, so please do stay tuned for the next upload. I love you. I'll be praying for you. And bye.